You know those moments? Those groundbreaking moments in your life when, in a split second, the ground beneath you just disappears?
Yeah.
I experienced one of those. And it was not a movie script. It was my life. And the man I had pictured as my future? He was already living one, with a wife, and 2 kids. It started, as all breakups do, with a whisper of potential. His name was Alex. I met him at a friend's barbecue, one of those lazy summer afternoons when the air hums with laughter and the smell of charcoal. He was leaning against the railing, a beer half full in his hand, watching the world with this quiet, observing gaze. Not loud, not flashy, just present. And something about that pulled me in. We talked for hours that day, about nothing and everything. Our shared love of underground indie bands, our mutual dislike of reality TV, the ridiculousness of modern dating. He had this way of listening, really listening, that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. His eyes, this warm, nutty brown, would crinkle at the corners when he smiled, and his laugh was this low, rumbling sound that just felt safe. I wasn't looking for anything serious. I had gotten burned before, the kinds of burns that you touch with your finger on lonely nights. But with Alex, it was different. It wasn't a whirlwind romance that left you breathless and stunned. It was a slow, steady burn, like embers that got lighter and warmer with each passing day. We'd walk through the local state park, he pointing out different bird calls, me laughing at his terrible attempts at mimicry. We'd cook together, always some ridiculously involved thing that would somehow manage to taste surprisingly good, our hands brushing as we both reached for the same spice. We'd spend hours on my couch, talking, sometimes until the sun started to creep through the blinds, painting the sky with soft oranges and purples. He was thoughtful, always remembered small things. That I drank my coffee black, just a splash of oat milk, no sugar. That I hated cilantro. He'd leave me little reminders on my fridge, silly little sketches, or just a thinking of you. He'd show up with my favorite flowers, not for an occasion, just because. And he made me feel seen, truly seen, in a way no one ever had before. He'd look at me, and it felt like he was looking right into my soul, past all the insecurities and the messy bits, and finding something beautiful there. We talked about the future, too. Not in a concrete, let's pick out China patterns way, but in soft, hopeful whispers. He'd mention something about wanting a dog, and I'd be all, oh, we'll have to have a big yard for that. He'd mention some childhood dream of fixing up an old farmhouse, and I'd chime in with dreams of a sprawling garden. It all just seemed so natural, so destined, like 2 pieces of a puzzle that had finally clicked into place. My friends loved him. My family, even my notoriously skeptical older brother, gave him their seal of approval. He inserting himself into the texture of my life easily, and I, oblivious, into his artfully constructed fantasy. Looking back, the red flags weren't just subtle. They were practically waving in my face, disguised as perfectly reasonable explanations. But when you're in love, your brain has this amazing ability to rationalize away anything that doesn't fit the narrative you've built.
He worked long hours, he said.
A demanding job in tech, always on call. That explained why he couldn't always answer his phone immediately, or why he often had to cut our calls short. Just a quick client emergency, babe, he'd say, his voice apologetic. And I'd nod, understanding. My job had its demanding moments too. Weekends were tricky. He needed to go out of town for business sometimes, or he had family obligations, vague, secretive family obligations that invariably fell on a Saturday or Sunday. He never explained. Just doing something for my sister, or my mom needs me to fix up the house. I never actually met the sister, or his mom. He'd always say, soon, I promise. They're just a little shy. And I believed him. My own family was a little unusual. I figured his could be too. He wasn't on much social media. Just an old, almost empty Facebook page with a few stock landscape photos. I'm just not really into it, he'd shrugged. Prefer living in the moment. And I admired that. In a world obsessed with curated online lives, his disinterest felt refreshing, authentic. I even shut down my Instagram for a while, inspired by his live-in-the-moment ethos. The irony, now, is a bitter taste in my throat. He never once asked me over to his house. It's a mess right now, to be honest, he'd sheepishly admit. Roommates are slobs, and I'm looking for a new place. He always came over to my apartment or we'd go out. My 1-bedroom bungalow was our sanctuary, our hideaway from the world. He knew every crack in my ceiling, every book on my bookshelf. He even had his own drawer in my dresser for his belongings, a toothbrush next to my own. It all felt so permanent. So real. His phone was basically glued to his hand, silent always. He'd never leave it behind, not even when he went to the bathroom. If it rang, he'd glance at the screen, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, then silence it. Just spam calls, he'd dismiss. Or work stuff, don't worry about it. And I wouldn't. Why would I? He was right there with me, laughing, holding my hand. We were at a coffee shop once and he got a text. His phone buzzed on the table. For a moment, before he picked it up, I saw a message flash on the screen. A picture. It was blurry, only for an instant, but it looked like a child's drawing. A crayon drawing of a house, maybe. My heart skipped a weird little beat. Cute, I said, trying to play it cool. From your niece or nephew? He stopped for a second. Then his face cleared.
Oh yeah.
My sister's kid. She sends me all their artwork. He quickly put away his phone. I remember thinking he's so nice to kids, that's a good sign. Oh, the things we tell ourselves. There was also the weirdness around holidays. Christmas, Thanksgiving. He'd always have to head out of town for family. Large family gatherings, he would say. Chaos, actually. You wouldn't enjoy it. And I, an introvert who quite often preferred low-key holidays, got it. We'd celebrate our own mini holidays before or after, the two of us, so that it was special and intimate. He made me feel like I was his focus, despite the fact that I wasn't with him for the highlight. The biggest red flag, the one that continues to turn my stomach, was the way he'd sometimes flinch when I'd reach for his phone, even if I were simply moving it from the table. A tiny, almost imperceptible twitch. Then he'd say, sorry, just jumpy today. My mind, ever the loyal servant to my heart, would conjure up explanations. He's just private. He's a private person, so he wants the same for himself. I was so blinded by the love, by the comfort, by the sheer happiness he brought into my life, that I built a wall of denial around these tiny inconsistencies. I did not want to see them. I did not want to question the beautiful, delicate bubble we lived in. Because if I did, it would pop. And I wasn't ready for that. The blow-up didn't come from a dramatic confrontation or an admission. It came from a typical Tuesday afternoon and seemingly innocuous suggestion and an instinct I couldn't ignore any longer. It was our 1-year anniversary. We'd planned a quiet dinner at our favorite Italian place. I was looking forward to it. I'd even bought him a small gift, a vintage record by one of the bands we both loved. While getting ready, I had an idea. He'd mentioned his roommates were moving out soon and he'd finally have his own apartment. Why don't we celebrate tonight at your new apartment? I texted with a flirtatious emoji. I can prepare dinner for us there. A housewarming and anniversary all in one. His response was quick, too quick. Oh, babe, that's sweet, but it's still a total mess. Not ready for guests. Let's stick to our reservation. A small pang of unease. It wasn't the first time he dismissed me, but this time it felt different. It was our anniversary, and it was always my place or a restaurant, never his. That night, during dinner, I tried to push it out of my mind. He was chivalrous, attentive, just as always. He gave me a beautiful necklace, a delicate silver chain, and a tiny, intricate bird charm. For my little bird, he'd murmured, kissing my forehead. My heart swelled, but that tiny pinprick of discomfort had grown into a dull ache. Later that week, I was sorting through my old Facebook photos, looking for a picture to post for our anniversary. I found one from that barbecue where we met. Alex was in the background, out of focus, but recognizable as him. I zoomed in just for fun and noticed something I'd never noticed. Around his wrist, barely visible, was a thin braided bracelet. I remembered it. He wore it all the time, but he never took it off, not even when we were intimate. I just always assumed it was some sentimental thing, maybe from a grandparent. But here, it was the anniversary deflection that haunted me, and a new, cold thought occurred. A thought that made me shudder. I remembered he had told me he wasn't into social media, but I also recalled him mentioning that he had a cousin who was a photographer. What if his family was online? It was a rabbit hole I didn't wish to descend, but I couldn't resist. I went to his cousin's public Instagram page, and there it was. A picture posted a few months after I had met him. A family gathering. A birthday party, it looked like. And there in the center, smiling, with a little girl sitting on his hip, was Alex. And next to him, a woman, her arm through his, a warm, natural smile on her face. And another kid, a boy, clinging to her leg. I held my breath. The world tilted. I stared at the photo, my mind refusing to let me process what my eyes were seeing. It had to be a mistake. A relative. A friend. But the manner in which he was hugging the little girl, the way the woman looked at him, it wasn't a friendly family photo. It was a family. His family. I continued scrolling. More photos. Christmas last year. Alex, the woman, the two kids, in matching pajamas, opening presents. A photo of the woman, pregnant, Alex's hand on her belly, captioned, "Can't wait to meet our little one." 3 years ago. The braided bracelet on his wrist, the same one he wore every day. I had the wind knocked out of me. My vision blurred. I felt as though I'd been punched in the gut, then had the rug pulled out from under me, and then had the whole room catch on fire. My hands started shaking, uncontrollably. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead.
No.
No, this couldn't be happening. This wasn't real. I found her profile. It was public. Her name was Sarah, and her bio read, "Wife to my amazing husband, mother of 2 beautiful blessings." And there, in her tagged photos, were dozens more of Alex. Alex on vacation with them. Alex playing with the kids at a park. Alex kissing her cheek. The world went silent. The only sound was the frantic pounding of my own heartbeat, echoing in my ears like a drum. I felt a wave of nausea. All of the little inconsistencies, all of the vague explanations, all of the times he'd been busy or traveling or had family obligations, they crashed over me, a tidal wave of sickening realization.
He wasn't just dating me.
He had a double life, an entire, full life, wife and kids, while he was here, with me, building a life that was nothing but a cruel, elaborate lie. The disintegration did not occur overnight. It was a slow, agonizing falling apart. Shock came first, a numb paralysis that rendered it impossible to move, to think, to breathe. I just sat there, staring at the screen, tears streaming silently down my face, blurring the images of his happy, unsuspecting family. Then the denial. My mind, still clinging to the illusion, tried to explain it away. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe they were divorced. Maybe it was his brother. But the dates, the captions, the very abundance of evidence screamed the truth. And then the anger, a seething, burning anger that started in my stomach and spread to every cell in my body.
How dare he?
How dare he play with my heart, my life, my trust? How could he look me in the eye, tell me he loved me, make plans with me, and then go home to another woman, to his children? The betrayal was so deep, so complete, it was nearly a physical blow. The doubt was a heavy veil, suffocating me. What was real? Was anything real? All the talking, all the touching, all the whispered promises, were they all skillfully crafted deceptions? Did he ever love me? Was I a game? A diversion? The thought was too much to handle. I called him. My voice was shaking so hard I could barely get the words out. "Alex." I managed to choke out. "Who is Sarah?" There was a long silence on the other end. A silence that said it all. Then a sigh. A tired, defeated sigh. "Look, I can explain." But there was no explanation. Not one that could ever account for the wreckage he'd left in his path.
Vomit.
I confronted him with the evidence. He tried to spin some story, something about sadness, about having to go away, about it being complicated. But the words were hollow, meaningless. I didn't let him finish. I just looked at him, really looked at the man who had taken a year of my life, a piece of my heart, and saw nothing but a stranger, a liar, a coward. The following days were spent in tears, wakeful nights, and a crushing void. My apartment, which had been full of his laughter, his scent, his presence, now felt like a grave. There were memories everywhere, ghosts of what I thought we had. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. The pain was a dull, throbbing ache, punctuated by sharp, stabbing moments of realization. He was never truly mine. He was never actually available. And I had been so stupid. I was humiliated, ashamed. How could I have been so blind? So naive? My friends were horrified, devastated for me. They rallied around me, cooking for me, just sitting with me in silence, letting me cry. But even their comfort felt distant. I was utterly alone in my grief, in my shattered reality. I deleted all his photos, all his messages, all his emails. I threw away the necklace he gave me, the album, everything that reminded me of him. It felt like peeling off my own skin, but I had to do it. I had to delete him, or he would continue to haunt me. The recovery wasn't some abrupt burst of sunshine. It was a slow, painful creep out of the shadows. It started with small steps, getting out of bed, cooking a good meal, taking a walk even if it was just around the block. I did therapy.
Plenty of therapy.
I talked about the burning anger, the pain, the suffocating sense of betrayal. My therapist helped me realize that it wasn't my fault. I wasn't stupid. I was trusting. He was manipulative. And that's a distinction worth making. It wasn't a reflection of my worth, but of his character. I slowly started to reclaim myself. I color my hair fire engine red, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the guts to try. I started taking a pottery class, getting my hands dirty, shaping something tangible from the mess. I reached out to friends I'd inadvertently neglected during my time with Alex. I started saying yes to things, even when I didn't particularly feel like it. A night out to the movies, a weekend trip, a spontaneous dinner. The pain did not disappear overnight. It lingered, a phantom limb pain. There were days, weeks even, when a song, a smell, a casual glance at a hand-holding couple would suck me back down into the whirlpool of grief. But gradually, the whirlpools became shorter. The pain became duller. I needed to forgive myself for not seeing the red flags, for loving someone who wasn't what he represented himself to be. Because how could I have known? He was a master manipulator, and I was a mere human being, open-hearted and vulnerable, looking for love. The best self-discovery was this: my worth does not rest on someone else's integrity. My capacity to love is not a weakness. It's a strength. I was worth more. I'm still worth more. And I will have it. Not because I'm looking for another human being to complete me, but because I've learned how to complete myself. I'm still healing. Some days are harder than others. But I'm standing.
I'm stronger.
And I'm wiser. I'm not bitter, not anymore. Just aware. Aware of the shadows, but also, more than ever, aware of the light within myself. And that light, it's mine. And no one can ever take it away. If you've experienced anything similar, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if this story resonated with you even slightly, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and hit that bell.